This is Jackie Cooper with CryptoMom2 Talk Show, and I want to welcome everyone to this episode. I also want to ask everyone to definitely like and subscribe because there are many conversations that are about to happen. I would love to have you in the know as to what's going on current event-wise, as well as what's happening as the blockchain develops. Today, I have a very special guest here who I've spoken with a number of times. And we're actually doing a series of conversations just because in this area, our community is evolving so fast, and especially in the world of artificial intelligence. We're going to be having a long conversation about that. So I definitely would suggest that you subscribe. So every time that we have a new post, you can then listen to it and enjoy the information that's shared. Today, I want to share a little bit first, if you're new to the Crypto Mom 2, a background about myself, and then I'm going to have my guest introduce herself. As some of you already know, my background's law, and I'm also an educator. So these shows, I'll do the disclaimers, are not financial advice, they're not investment advice, they're not legal advice. There's a lot of risk involved with anything that you do within the cryptocurrency space or the blockchain space. However, within the blockchain space, it's business. It's definitely business. So like with whether it's traditional or the blockchain space, you have to always do your own research, consult your own advisors, and understand, what it is that you're getting involved with. There's so much new technology that's happening today that actually it's not new. We've been using, since we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence today, it's been around for a while. We just might not have branded it as artificial intelligence. We've been using it with Siri, and hopefully she doesn't come on right now. We've been using it when we write emails, and all of a sudden we get these suggestions of words. So everything has been integrated, gently behind the scenes, and now it's becoming a little bit more aggressive, and people have more choices to decide to opt in. And we're going to talk about opting in a whole nother episode because of the fact that, when you do your opt-in, it's all about your digital identity. So, but that's not going to be the topic of today, but we're definitely going to be talking about that in a few weeks. So I definitely want you to subscribe because of the fact that every time you click yes on terms and conditions, do you know what you're clicking yes to and what you might be giving up? But that's a whole nother episode. Before I go down a different rabbit hole, I would like to introduce Dr. Blockchain. She, as I mentioned, she is an expert in this area. She's a professor. And her personal story, you can definitely go back into my feed and learn more about her personal story. But I'm going to have her give a quick overview as to her background because she has a tremendous amount of credibility, and she's always looking at what's going on in our community. She's writing constantly. She's critically thinking about the consequences of the actions that we're taking, and the good and the bad. And so, Dr. Blockchain, I want to welcome you, and I'm going to give you a few minutes just to introduce yourself because I love what you're doing, and I respect everything that you've been sharing online, and I want my community to know more. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me again. And I always love coming to talk with you and work with you. It's always been a pleasure to be here.
So why don't you share, for those that might not know your background, how did you come to this space? And what are you currently doing? And then I will share screen, and we're going to talk a little bit more about artificial intelligence in the financial side.
Okay. So I'll try to be quick because, I have a lot, I have a big history. I mean, like I kind of like started in one place and then deviated to another. So I think we share that kind of back, very eclectic background. So my background, yes, it's non-traditional in the sense, that you start, let's say at an accounting firm and you stay there for 30 years until you retire. So that was not my path, and yours not either, from what I know. But it's okay. And this is when people say that, oh, it's fine. I mean, as long as you are enjoying your path, then that's what counts. I mean, no one, it doesn't have to be a straight line. It could be a little bit curvy. And that's fine. And so, yeah, I started in tech. So I started, as a growing up, going to high school, I went to a STEM school, which was all about computer science, engineering, and all of that. So that was my first passion. I love technology till this day. I mean, it's the passion of mine because I see so much tremendous changes in innovation and things that it can do, and that's what fascinates me. This is why I'm so much into everything tech, all emerging technologies, whether it's AI, it's computing, quantum, blockchain, Web3, immersive technologies, you name it. So that's basically what I do, which is all about emerging technologies. And then, one thing led to another. I went to college, got introduced to finance and economics, and got so much intrigued about all the, economic problems that we have. And people forget that economics, in fact, lives, so to speak, in the social science. People think that it's science, but no, it's social science. So it's all about that. I mean, and all the theories that came out, even though they have mathematical models, but it's all about the social impact. So that's what people always forget. So economics, and that's what I was so intrigued, because it wasn't just about, the mathematical and the consumption and all of that, and monetary policy on that, but it was a lot of the social impact of all of those. And that's what I was so much intrigued in. And I always was trying to figure out, okay, we have this technology, how we can make a social impact, because we have these problems, how we can use, because I see technology as a tool. Technology is a tool. It's nothing but a tool. I mean, people make it a little bit more than that, but it's a tool. So how we can use a tool, a good tool, and in the right way to help society and our economics problems. So that, to make story short, I decided to go for a PhD. Not saying that that's the only way to do it. That was my decision. It doesn't have to be everyone's decision. So I came to New York. I got my PhD at NYU, at Stern Business School, NYU. And the first thought was, to be a quant, to do which is data science for finance, and use basically all the AI models that we'll be talking a little bit about it today. Build it, it was about building algorithm, risk management, and all of that. So that's what I was doing, consulting for hedge funds. And as I was doing this, I stumbled on crypto. Because, I was doing FX, and FX, if people know, is foreign currency, traded in pairs, 24/7, and all of that. So I could understand, I'm talking about 8 years ago, even more than 8 now. So it was back then, and it was that all the brokers that offered FX also offered crypto today. They try, a little bit to distinguish that, but still, it's not. I mean, the space is not regulated. I mean, that will be a talk for a different show about the regulation issues. But that's a whole story by itself. So, and then, I when I was doing my research and trying to figure out, I'm talking about 8 years ago, I like to say that it looks like a cow but doesn't behave like a cow. What I mean by that is that the drivers for FX, which are all monetary policies and all the economic drivers, were not the ones that drive. Today it's a little bit, they're more moving in more in sync. It also depends which ones. But it was less apparent back then. And I want to understand, okay, so what is that? So it's not the drivers are not the central bank monetary policy and all of that. So what are the drivers? What is this? And I realized the technology behind it. And I got completely lit up. Back to my passion of technology, and that's exactly what I was always looking for: technology and economics. I mean, how can we bring them together? And that was the, as if, kind of this solution. This is why I got so intrigued with all these emerging technologies, because now I'm thinking about, I got so much involved in Web3, and then now it's not just Web3, because I believe in I'm in the process of writing a book which is all about emerging technologies, and I call it the full system solution. Because if you think about it, and we can talk about it some other time, whenever you build something, it's a combination of several technologies all together. You think that you're only talking about blockchain, but there's blockchain and AI and IoT and all kinds of other things, but people like to focus on one or the other. So that's, in a nutshell, my background.
No, you've done a lot. And so, that's a great lead into what we're going to be talking about, which is, how is artificial intelligence being used or not used within the financial community? And you recently wrote an article about this, and we're going to sort of go through robo advisors and chatbots that, are being looked at. Do you want to give, as we're scrolling down, do you want to give a summary as to what you found, and what are some of the important considerations within this space? Because again, there's a lot of good that can happen, but there's a lot of protections that might still need to be in place.
Exactly. So first of all, let's say that the financial industry and a lot of other industries have been using AI for decades. If you think about it, the first machine learning models were developed in the 1940s, and I'm talking the previous century, not this century, the previous one. So this is about almost 80 years going on. And we think, because of all the hype of ChatGPT and OpenAI, we think, oh, it's new. No, it's nothing is new. I mean, it's evolving. It's becoming more advanced. It's becoming more powerful because of all the advances of technology and the computing power that we have. We can do all these other things. But the idea of using data and all these models and the predictions and finding patterns and all of that was there since, I'm saying, the 40s of the previous century, the 20th century. So, and therefore, the financial industry have been using it for all sorts of services and products, whether it's optimization of portfolios and risk management and customer service and operations. So it's been there for a long time. And I think that one of the two things, that people that is most common, most, let's say, familiar to people, is probably robo advisors and the chatbots. So I'm sure that everyone kind of know what they are. I mean, maybe not know in the sense how they operate, but at least understand the concept. So robo advisors is there, I call it like the primitive way of AI powered financial advice. So even with that, I mean, I think the first one that came up with robo advisors, which was for everyone to use, a client, can download that app and start, using it, was Betterment. That was, I'm talking 2008. That's what, 15 years ago? And since then, they were the first one, and then, others, and now even traditional financial institutions are using, are providing robo advisors, whether it's Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley and others. They're all offering robo advisor in addition to their human, so to speak, financial advisors. But even with that robo advisors, which I'm talking 15 years ago, that was provided for everyone, this kind of automated advice was already used by financial institutions, financial advisors, even before Betterment came with that. But you were not able as a user, as a customer, to use it yourself. Like, you can download the app with Betterment and similar like that and do it. you had to go through financial advisor because they had that software and they, were using it and then giving you advice based on that. So it has been there, let's say, even for 20, 30 years. I mean, I'm talking about all this. And of course, it's getting better and better, as technology gets better, that the power of that also gets better. So that's something with, robo advisors that we all familiar with, and financial advisors always feared that there will come a technology one day that will make them obsolete. So far, with robo advisors as we have them today, it didn't happen because the financial advisors, the human financial advisors, still work in addition to the robo advisors of Merrill Lynch, etc., and they are bringing to the banks billions of dollars in assets. So no one is going, still doing, bringing more value to the banks than the robo advisors. So that didn't happen. Well, maybe a new generation of this AI powered will, which I call GPT powered, will make them more susceptible to being, I don't know, obsolete, but maybe less needed.
So
Sorry.
no, it's okay. You're doing great. I see on the screen that the GPT is
GPT stands for pre-trained transformer.
exactly.
Now, generative G, pre-trained P, transformer. Now, transformer, you have to understand that's a language, an AI language that was developed in the 70s. So you understand, this is already also old. But this transformer became more powerful with this generative pre-trained language that was developed by the OpenAI lab. So OpenAI developed this language, but everyone can use it today. So it's a language that, yes, company, the lab developed it, but it's something that now everyone is using GPT. So now it's like the advanced transformer language. So GPT is a language, but just so you understand.
Thank you. So you have in your article, you have 3 examples. Would you like to explain why you selected these 3 as examples to
In fact, I have 4 examples.
okay.
If you see at the beginning, there's JP Morgan with the index GPT, and then there's Bloomberg GPT, there's Casisto, which have the Kai GPT, and then there's one Zero Bank, which is a digital. It's an all digital bank in an Israeli digital bank. Is very, very advanced, and they're doing everything digitally, everything with all the cutting edge technologies. And now they developed a generative AI chatbots that, first of all, it will be like the chatbots that we have today. I'm sure that you have the kind of like, it's a rule-based, kind of primitive, because it's all about Q&A, and sometimes it's, to be honest with you, most consumers, are being a little bit frustrated because it never answers the questions, and you always need to go eventually to speak to somebody because you're not calling these chatbots just because of frequent Q&A, because that you can find on the website. You don't need to call them for that. But that's what they provide. And then, yes, just I want to get to the person already. And this is why I'm going to talk more about that later, but the consumer protection, the Bureau of the Consumer Protections, they monitor all these chatbots, and because of the frustration that clients and customers have, and they saying that basically we have to be very careful, and they give some warning to some banks about that that because if you want, they think, now there's this kind of an idea, okay, that we don't need humans anymore. These chatbots can do all the work for us, and cutting costs and all of that. But if you create, not all chatbots are developed equally or built equally. It all depends on the models and the data that you train them on, and the quality of the data and what it provides. So saying that, just, launching something and expecting that to be useful is somewhat wrong. So they, I'm glad that you brought it up, but they basically pinpoint a few problems, risks that, that companies and customers should be aware of. One is non-compliance with federal customers with financial protection law, and you're a lawyer, so you probably know that even better than I do. But there's, maybe that you have to be very careful that the advice that it gives you might harm the customer. The mission of the service and the trust, because you're talking to a machine and then it's frustrated and then you feel, I can't trust this bank because I can't really talk to somebody. And then of course, there's all kinds of harm that can happen, that they even mentioned that it could, bring to a situation that the customer will take an action that basically can harm them legally, not just financially, but also legally. So that's something that they very much saying that if you want to build something, you have to be very aware of all those risks, when you're building something. Yes, it's very powerful. Yes, it can do really tremendous things and empower us with all of this possibilities of predictive and risk management, optimization, etc. But at the same time, there's a privacy issue, there's legal issues, there's securities issues, and there's all kinds of other things which we have to bear in mind. Just one point with the customer service and all of that, there is, in fact, and this is why something, that the chatbots of Bank of America, I think it's the first one that is engaging that. They have a chatbot called, I think Elk. Forgot the name. It will come back to me. Well, that was launched way back in 2018, the chatbot itself. But what they added this time, in beginning of this year, which is 2023, they add a feature that you can easily switch to a human. And the chatbot itself can even predict why you are using this service, and then all this information that was gathered through this chatbot discussion can be shifted into the customer to human that can pick up from that and start talking. Now, the reason why they did that, because there was already a few surveys and research out there that found that customers would, especially the millennials and Gen Z, I mean, you would think that probably the old generation, no, it's the young generation that wants the most this, they prefer the combination of human and digital. So, and I can understand, I mean, sometimes there are other questions that are more personal and you don't feel like talking to a machine. And sometimes it's more complex than what the machine can answer. And usually these machines, it's kind of like the information they give you is based on what is the most common question that people ask. But the reason why most people call is because it's not a common question. So you need to switch, and they made available, and so they're getting really good feedback about that.
Do you think that there's going to be legislation to restrict the financial institutions like banks from using AI? Or do you think that the legislation is going to be broad, so that way they can integrate it for customer service? Again, there's two different areas here. There's financial investment advice, and then there's just general customer service support. So, where do you think that legislation might be going?
Well, I mean, again, the use of AI, maybe not with the GPT and all of that, that's going to take it to the next level, has been around. And the legislation didn't come in and say, oh, don't use it, because technology is technology. So yes, they get penalized from time to time, the banks, but not because of AI. They're getting penalized because of other things. So I don't see, I mean, for now, if there's going to be a regulation about AI, it's going to be very, very broad about the entire, all industries, not specifically to the banks. What the banks probably will get is probably a monitoring, that the Consumer Bureau for Consumers, Financial Consumers will monitor them and maybe give them guidance on how to apply these technologies, how to work with the customers, what are the customers' needs, etc. I I might be wrong, but as of now, I don't think that the regulators will come specifically to the banks and tell them, okay, you're not allowed to do A, Y, Z.
Have you? I haven't, but this might be a conversation that we can do in the future. Have you had a chance to look at the legislation that in the EU, related to AI,
Sure.
and how that has applied either generically or not generically to the financial industry?
Okay, so the act is called it's a AI Act. It's a proposal. It's not it hasn't been enacted yet, but it is a proposal. The proposal is basically putting all of this, like the ChatGPT and all that, as high risk. And the EU is asking for a lot of transparency because of the privacy issue and security issues. So they're asking for transparency now, and this is why a lot of um, companies, were saying that this is a little bit like an overboard going, after all this. And I can see, and I wrote about it. In fact, I have another article that you can check that. There's an article that I mentioned about, I think when I wrote an article about John Oliver. I mean, I'm also addressing that issue of the regulation. But in any event, they're not going specifically about industries. They're looking more on the applications of this AI. And in fact, under these applications also, when they address them, what may be classified as risky, there are also applications that Bloomberg now uses. I mean, I'm not talking about the advanced one that is just developing, but they have a one that is supposed to be subscriptions, kind of like transcriptions of for legal for that they have in there.
Yeah. So when you do a
So
deposition or something like that.
yeah, so that's something that is powered by AI, and even that's considered risky, which shouldn't be risky, or things like all this translators and all of that we have. They're also providing them as risky, which shouldn't. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. You have to go but use case by use case, and not put everything that empowered by AI as risky. Not everything is risky. If I'm using it to write my email, I don't think there's so much risk in that. But if there's someone is using it in order to create like a deep fake voice and scam people, then yes, yeah, that's something that we should put our rules against and try to mitigate that. So you have it's the same way people approach regulation in crypto and saying, oh, everyone is a criminal. Everyone is using crypto as a criminal, which is also not true. And that's a different, of course, discussion. But again, going like a blanket statement and blanket rule that's saying that all of that, I mean, whether it's all crypto is bad, and all AI is bad, and all GPT is bad, it's not the way to go. You have to go use case by use case. Some are bad, some are not so bad. If I'm using it to write an email, it's not so bad. If someone is using it to scam people and with deep fake of voices and images and all of that, then yes, that's very bad.
So we're going to be talking in our next episode about digital identity. And so we'll talk about some tips that people can use to, think about how to protect themselves. Why don't you go ahead, and even though your website will be definitely embedded within the blog below, why don't you go ahead and share how people can reach out to you, so that way if they have a question or would like to read your articles, they'll be able to do that. Why don't you go ahead and share? Because on the audio side, they might not be seeing that we've posted our websites. So go ahead and share so that way everyone can be involved.
Okay, you can find me on my website, which is drblockchain.io, doctor spelled out DOCTOR blockchain.io. You can find all my articles, all material, all my services. Also, I do consulting. You can find me there for that, workshops as well, etc. So you can find me there. You can ask me a question and connect with me. And all the rest.
Sounds good. So for everyone who's been listening, again, our links are definitely going to be embedded below. So if you happen to be listening, you're not with a paper and pen, don't worry, just come back to this episode. But I will also ask again to definitely subscribe. We are going to be doing a variety of conversations over the next few months that are very pertinent to what's going on in our community. And for those that want to reach out to me, definitely reach me at CryptoMom2.com. And as I've mentioned, every time that I end the show, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. We are also interconnected and we're all part of one world. So have a great day. And I look forward to seeing everyone again at the next episode. And thank you so much for being on. I cannot wait for our next conversation. Have a great day.